Greetings. I'd like to ask you a question at this time. When was the last time that you really was broken before the Lord? You know, in our last video in this series, A Moment with the Pastor, we began a study in Nehemiah, chapter number 1. And if you recall from that video, we talked to you just for a few minutes about the fact that Nehemiah had inquired about his homeland. He, of course, was in occupied territory. He was a king's cupbearer, and he had some friends come from Jerusalem. And they told him about how Jerusalem laid in waste and the gates were burned with fire, and everything was just torn down. You know, and we talked about that in the last video. But you know, I want to focus on verse number 4 here. And the Bible says, let me read it to you, Nehemiah chapter 1, verse 4. And it came to pass, when I heard these words, that I sat down and wept, and mourned certain days, and fasted, and prayed before the God of heaven. I wonder, when was the last time you got so burdened about something that you wept, and you mourned certain days, and you fasted, and you waited on God to give you a clear sign of approval or give you encouragement through the Word or through the word of someone else? I wonder, when was the last time? I find that we're so quick when trouble comes or we find out there's a problem. I find that many times we quickly get on the phone or email someone, or we talk to some other two-legged man around here somewhere that all they can do is give you what they think, when the most important thing we ought to be finding out is what God thinks about something. We know from reading the whole book of Nehemiah what is going to happen, and we know that God's going to use this man in a mighty way to help God's people and carry out God's purpose at this time for the children of Israel. But I tell you, it all began when he learned about what happened, learned about the situation, but more importantly, how it affected him. And he prayed, and he wept, and he fasted. And it wasn't just a now I'll lay me down to sleep type prayer. It wasn't some emotional high that he got on and it let out and he kind of went back to the same old thing. No, this thing changed him. It burdened him. It got inside of him and it stayed there. And it affected him and it changed his life. And he was used of the Lord in a mighty way. You know, as I just think about this verse in relation to where I'm at here in Blair, Nebraska, and where you're at, and you know, our town's going through a lot. Our crops aren't doing good this year, and we had a flood last year here in the Missouri River Valley, and you know, there's a lot of negative things on on TV and different things, and you know, people are trying to find some rationality in all this, but you know, I don't find many people weeping over crops. I don't find many people weeping over the flood anymore. I don't find many people weeping over sin. I don't find many people weeping over the lack of interest in spiritual matters as it concerns their church. I think we just we get on a little emotional roller coaster, and whenever the preacher talks about it, we get teary-eyed, but when he don't talk about it, well, it's not an issue. I tell you, we need to get back to being burdened. I hope that it wouldn't take some big natural disaster, 10 times worse than the flood we had last year here where we're at. And I hope it wouldn't take some big disaster worse than a really bad drought for God to get our attention so we'd get concerned enough about what's going on and begin praying. I want to challenge you at Great Commission Baptist Church, those of you watching this video. I want to ask you a question. When was the last time? I hope that you'll take this to heart. We find that as a result of what Nehemiah heard concerning his homeland, it affected him in such a way that it drove him to worship God and to lay down in penitence before the Lord and to ask for help and strength and find out what to do. We're going to look at his prayer in our next video and see some specific things that he talks about and that he acknowledges in the prayer. But in this video, I want to ask you a question. When was the last time? Think about that today. God bless you.